Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we have our second video in the folder of work series. So this is for grade 1, 2, 3 and 4 folders. If you are more senior, if you're grade 6, 7 or 8, there's a video coming later in the week to talk about how you annotate. But for today, we're focusing on the junior folders. So before we get started, let's talk about a few of the things that you're going to need. Obviously, you're going to need your text. So I'm going to show you a full example in this poetry book today, but I'm also going to talk briefly about a prose extract as well, because they are slightly different. So that's the first thing you're going to need. Your actual texts, be it a poem, a prose, a drama, whatever it might be, you're going to need that text. The second thing you're going to need is something to write your annotations down on. Now personally, I use these. If you have been working on your folder in class, you will have used these for your annotations. So the reason for this is that you can clearly fit everything onto the one post-it. One post-it's worth is generally enough for an annotation at this level. And similarly, when you find your poem in your book then, you can stick it in beside the poem, which makes it easier when you come to type it up and add everything into your template. I will link these post-its in the description because I do find them really useful. I have them in hundreds of colours at this point, and I use them all the time. If you don't have these about and you're not able to get your hands on them, don't worry, you can use just a standard post-it note, any type of sticky note. Or you could do it in a separate page and stick the extract into the book at the section you're annotating. This is the way I do it. This is the way I'm going to be doing it today. So I'm going to show you how I would annotate a piece. Today I'm going to use Double Trouble from the Puffin book of fantastic first poems, which I mentioned in the last video as my favourite. So we're going to use this one today. This poem has been used a lot before, as you can see. It's been well loved. It's got pencil on it, it's got like sticky note residue on it, but I don't mind that. That means it's being used properly. The way we're going to work this is we're going to take our post-it note and I'm going to write the title. This is especially important because there are multiple poems on each page in this book. If you're doing an extract, you might not need to write the title, but for poetry in particular, that's quite important. And I'm going to number down the side of the page. I'm going to leave 2 lines in between each one because for your annotation, there are 3 things we look for and there are 3 points to make. So the first point you want to make is a general point about why you like it, something general about the poem. You're not talking specifically about the text or why you specifically find it interesting. It's a general point. So I like this poem because it is from the perspective of Anne, which means you have to act a bit. The speaker is not you, the speaker is Anne, so you have to pretend to be Anne. Okay, so that's a general point. That's an example of a general point. So sometimes it's going to be like that about the speaker. Sometimes it could be about the theme. So I like this poem because it's about sisters. I like this poem because it's about twins. I like this poem because it's funny. I like this poem because it's sad. So something general about the whole poem, not looking at specific text. So for the second point then, you want to look for something very specific in the text. So a line or a couple of lines or even just one word that you think is really interesting and cool and something you want to talk about. So let's use the line, "She sometimes plays with Katie thinking that it's me." I'm not going to write the whole line out on this post-it note. I will when I put it into my folder, but for now I just want to get an idea of the bit I mean. Okay, and why do I like that line? Well, I like that line because I think it's it's a funny image, isn't it? Imagine going to your friend's house and playing with your friend and then realising, hey, this isn't my friend, this is my friend's sister. That's quite funny. So we have one general point about the poem as a whole. We have one that is specific to one line. And now we're going to do one that links to your life and your experience and why you like this poem. Because poetry is very subjective. You're going to like poems that your friend hates, and your friend's going to like poems that you hate. And you might love a poem and they might think, it's just okay. So this is why you specifically like this poem. So what about, we're going to say, I have a sister in real life, but I've always wondered what it would be like to have a twin. This is not exactly what I'm going to put in my folder, but for annotation, this is all you have to do. Not every annotation is going to have one of each of these things. You may have examples where you have 2 general points and 1 textual point, or 1 link to your own life experience and 2 textual points. The only thing I would say is you have to make sure you have 1 textual point. So this one here, where we picked out a specific line and we talked about why we liked it. You must have one of those. That's the only one that you have to have at least one of. The reason for that is that this one shows that you have read this poem thoroughly, that you've read it from start to finish. It shows that you haven't just opened up the book and gone, oh look, a picture of 2 twins, that looks fun, and picked it off of that. This one shows that you've read the poem and you like the poem for the poem itself and not for just the title or just the illustration. So don't be worried if you have 2 of these and none of these, or 2 of these and none of these. Don't worry about that, just so long as you have 3 separate points and at least 1 textual analysis. So once you've done that, you can stick it in your book, and that's that one annotated. So this is now ready to be typed up and added to your folder. I'm also going to show you very briefly what you would do in a prose extract. It is slightly different. The actual structure is the same, but you're just going to have different things to say. I'm using wonder as an example, and we are choosing this section at the end, which is where Augie gets the Henry Ward Beecher medal. So as you can see, while I was reading the book, I marked it with a little post-it that this is the section I want to annotate. So wonder. Again, we're going to go 1, 2, 3. And the first thing we want is a general point about this extract. So this is the climax of this novel, really, in a lot of ways. So I think that's what I'm going to say. So then we want something textual. When I'm reading it, I know already that Augie's going to get this. But he doesn't know until at the end it says, will August Pullman please come up here? So that will be my point. In the actual annotation that I put in my folder, I'll put the whole of that sentence. So will August Pullman please come up here to receive this award? But on this post-it, I don't need to write that whole thing because I'm sticking it in beside this extract. The final thing then is links to your life and experience. So I might say my cousin has special needs, so I can imagine how excited Augie and his family were for him to be recognised like this. So let's try. That's going to be a very long sentence, but we'll try our best. So okay, and once again then, once that extract is annotated, we just stick it in beside your extract, and there you go. Now, it's up to you whether you want to type the extracts up as you go along. You can, or if you want to leave it all to the end, make sure you have everything annotated and picked, and then type it all up in one go. That's totally up to you. But so long as you have the annotation in with the extract, that should be relatively easy. So the reason that we do this is because it improves your discussion in your exam, and it also makes it way easier to pick which poem you're going to write your personal reflection on and to actually write your personal reflection. The only real differences I would say here are grade 1 and 2 do exactly what I just said. Do one general point, one textual point, and one link to your life or experience. If you are grade 3, I would do either a general point or a link to your experience, and 2 textual points, because like we said in last week's video, they're looking for links to language in that one, so you want to show that you've read it really clearly and you've looked at the language and you know which bits are impactful for you. For grade 4, you're going to want to do either a general point or a link to your own life, a textual point, and a point explaining how it links to your overall theme. So if you were doing a folder on natural disasters, for example, you're going to want to start your annotation by saying, this poem is about the aftermath of a tornado, and so links to natural disasters. And that's all you have to say, and then you can go on and do your general point and your textual point and your links to life, etc. So that is really all that we need to talk about today. If you have any more questions about annotation or any aspect of the folder to date, please let me know. I'll be back next week with a video on how to add it into the template in Google Classroom and how to format it and things like that. But if you have any questions in the meantime, just let me know. I hope you're all keeping well and enjoying your Easter holiday. If you're watching this when it's being uploaded, then you're on your Easter holidays. And I will see you next week with our next video.